So my last lesson was on April 14th, and I'm picking up from that last lesson. So if you didn't get to see that lesson, I invite you to go on YouTube and check it out. But I mentioned last time that I was a book fiend, right? So this is the book that we started reading here in May. And so there's a couple more books in the bookstore, and we'll be talking some more about feel the fear and do it anyway, which seems so appropriate in today's times. But I also have some other books. I'm just going to reference them, and then you know where I got it. Of course, I'm focusing a lot on Chapter 11 of Happy Pocket Full of Money. And I'll also be talking about laws, spiritual laws. There is a book called 12 Laws of the Universe, which is a really nice, condensed but easy to read. Here's 12 spiritual laws. If you're wondering, well, what spiritual laws are actually out there? You know, we talk about gravity. We know what that means for us. And even though we don't understand maybe scientifically how all those forces work, we certainly have experience using the law of gravity. And so you may find that helpful as far as exposing yourself to some of the other laws. And lastly, I had mentioned last time a book called Moving Through Parallel Worlds. So the lesson titled today is Transcending Conditions. Now, it's based on chapter 11, which is called, the chapter title is called Conditions. They are fantastic illusions. The chapter is heavily focused on metaphysics, and that's what we believe here, looking beyond the physical. But it sounds so easy to talk about. It's not so easy sometimes to do when there are conditions. The conditions of uncomfortable relationships, uncomfortable money flow, currency, uncomfortable health conditions. With each of these things, we are not here to deny that we are having those experiences. I repeat, we are not here to deny. But you know, it's commonly known that you buy a new car and all of a sudden you realize how many people have your car. That when you are looking for something to criticize, you'll find something to criticize. But when you're looking to appreciate something, you'll find plenty of things to appreciate. It's all here. It's all here and it's all now. But what do we choose to focus on? And what do we choose to think? So we know we're more than physical reality because I believe we're all here because we believe in that love, peace, power, beauty, joy. Our hearts beat, our food digests. We don't control that. The intelligence of life just is. And again, there are the invisible laws, as I mentioned, of gravity, but now quantum physics is sharing with us and letting us become much more aware of exactly how faith works, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. But David, the author, mentioned that this chapter is about liberating you from conditions in your life. Liberating you from conditions in your life. But it's not liberating you in the way you might think. It's not about controlling the physical conditions and then everything working out perfectly for you. It's liberating you of conditions because, you ready? Get ready. Because conditions don't really exist in truth. What? I'm experiencing conditions. Again, we're not denying that. Things are, and we put a story to them. Conditions are an illusion appearing real. We suffer when we aren't in alignment with our truth and know our true beingness. and this is not how we have been taught to think. So that's what sort of blows our mind, because however we grew up, it was not with quantum physics, it was not with an understanding that all possibilities are right here, right now, existing all at the same time. Anybody see the movie Anything Everywhere All at Once? Not a lot of people, okay. It's a little bit of a bizarre movie, but it's definitely trying to state the same thing that we're saying here. You have access to an unlimited number of things, but it seems like we have created our conditions about, well, I grew up in poverty, or I grew up not with healthy relationships, a dysfunctional family, or whatever conditions, stories we have created about the experience that happened then. But we have the choice to choose something different now. So everything exists in the internal moment of now. In other words, there really is no time in the mind of God. It's true we are experiencing things in a particular order. We created the essence of time based on those experiences happening. This happened first, and then this happened, and then this happened. But to the greater truth is that all possibilities, zillions, gazillions, I don't know what the largest number is that we define these days. I'm in computer science, so they continue to, how many gigabytes, went from bytes to megabytes to gigabytes, terabytes. Now, we continue to expand that. But that's something we can't really get our head around. It's so big. So this book talks a little bit about the parallel worlds, basically doing a good job describing sort of more aesthetically that it's not just existing like a cartoon in my mind, but literally all the possibilities are right here already in reality. Jesus and other wise teachers have already told us what quantum physics is verifying scientifically. Even before you ask, it has been given unto you. Does that change the meaning of that? I mean, yes, I was born and raised Catholic. Yeah, I've heard that many times before. And to me, that was always, a sign of love, meaning Spirit already knew before I asked and then gave it to me. But to think about parallel worlds and no, all of the existence of possibility is here, and that's why it's already been given to you, that's a new way to look at that. It brings it a little bit closer to reality, right? Than just this thing we've made up in our head. So what does that mean? The wealthy you and the unwealthy you already exists. The creative you and the non-creative you exists. The hero in you and the victim and martyr in you exists. The loving and kind you and the unloving and unkind you, they are all right here, right now. What version of you do you desire? Keyword desire. That was from the last lesson. Desire, as in, it's all here for you to choose like a buffet. What do you desire? The first thing is working, doing your spiritual practice to get clear on what you desire. Oh, I want to be wealthy, but I don't want to really pay attention to the flow of my money, and I don't really have a good feeling about when I get money and how I spend money. When you get clear about your desire, I'll say that you have to redevelop the story that may have been before. If you don't feel you're wealthy now and you want to be wealthy, then there's a lot to talk about what does that mean to align with knowing your true abundance. And there are no prerequisites to jumping around in parallel worlds. You could choose to step into it assuming you feel worthy, that you know it is already done, that you desire it, and you're lining up your beliefs, your stories, your understanding, and your expression behind knowing that truth. But we tend to habitually repeat old choices. You know, 95% of what we do every day is subconscious, meaning we already made a decision once before and then we just repeat it. So it takes work to override the subconscious. It takes work. Are you willing to do that work? According to neuroscientists, we are conscious only 5% of what we do daily. Yeah. So doing your spiritual practice is, one, getting conscious, making choices, and then moving into habit and discipline of doing the spiritual practice to realign yourself, realign your thoughts, your beliefs, to get clear about your purpose, because that's where you'll find fulfillment when you can serve it's really serving the world, but in serving the world, if it's lined up with your purpose, you are fulfilled in that. It is love given. Okay, deep breath, because do you or someone you know hold on really tight to things that happen? You focus, you gnaw, you complain, you whine, you talk about the blockage, the obstructions, the things in the way. You repeat these old thoughts, these old stories, and you won't let go. Can't step back. Just get stuck in it. How many perspectives do you think there are in any story? Well, we do talk about 360 degrees, so at least 360. I was in an accident once where I was bike riding with a friend, and it was actually that we were in her neighborhood, but she said, "I'll race you to the end of the road here." And there were three of us, and so we were racing down, and a car from a road that I didn't know that was there, but she should have known was there, hit my friend in front of me. I got off my bike and I just walked in circles. Oh my God, this can't be, this didn't happen. Of course, I don't know if you may have experienced this, that when there are accidents, they take you away from other witnesses and they ask you to tell the story of what happened. Why? Everybody's going to have a different story. Everybody's going to have seen something different in that incident. And so I said, my friend was in front of us, she was ahead of us, and I was on the left side of her. And then she got hit by the car, and they said, "Well, why didn't you also get hit?" And I said, "Because I saw the car coming before she did." She was focused. And I had a different perspective where I saw what was coming and got to get to my brakes. That's not what the third person said. The third person said I was on the other side of her bike and further behind her. Does it matter? It's perspective. So it's really easy to blame other people and to point the fingers at other people and to judge other people, but you don't have their perspective. You don't know what they're looking at, what they're focused on, what they're paying attention to, because their life experience has them with radar antennas looking at this, while your radar antennas are looking at that. But we get so heavily attached to our situations that we think we're inside the movie when really we're in the movie house watching the movie. And I just have to say that if you do meditation, you start to get comfortable realizing the you that's here, that is the observer, is not the you that just chatters left and right and up and down and in and out all day long. And that there are things that happen, but it doesn't have to define you. You don't have to get lost in the movie. Meditation brings you back to the space of, this is what I observe. And that's hard to do in our life. We get caught up in our life. And the spiritual practice is meant to allow us to set that into a different perspective. So can I have the first slide up, Scarlett? I have 2 slides on perspective. The first one says, something small can appear big enough to block something else much larger. There is power in distance and perspective. Things, just like experiences, are not always as big as they seem. Give yourself time. Take a step back. Look not at the shadow, but at the light. But that means reflection. I mean, for many folks, it's squirrel, 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 squirrel. Doesn't happen to any of us, right? We're, for sure, just get lost in it. But when and how do we create the discipline to step back? Next slide. Your perspective is always limited by how much you know. Expand your knowledge and you will transform your mind. And that's why we're here. To inspire, to empower, and therefore transform. Because what you learn here, maybe from each other, from an experience you have, from a class, from a book, from a movie, from a song, who knows where the message comes from. But you get that opportunity to take that step back, to reflect, and again, to set the this is what happened, and then who am I, and how will I respond to that? All right. Look what I got. My own little disco ball. How many of you were here when I did my lesson on the disco ball? Okay, about half of you, or maybe 3/4 of you. So, what do you remember about that lesson? I'm curious. What does that disco ball metaphorically stand for? Remember? That's right. So the disco ball is one ball. There are a bunch of little mirrors on there representing each one of you. And the whole reason why I see you, because you are all energy, is because I can see the light reflecting off your energy. But we're still all one. So you can laugh. I brought this morning to do some more metaphor work. And I came up here and I was like, oh, I want the light to shine like a typical disco ball. And even this morning I'm learning my lesson. I'm like, okay, where's the light? Where's it reflecting? Oh, it's reflecting back to me. What a metaphor! Every situation that's happening out there. They did. Oh, yeah. I'm aware of that. The fact that I'm seeing it, experiencing it, it's a part of me. The disco ball is a reflection of your thoughts and beliefs. We have lots of thoughts and beliefs are really just repeated thoughts, so they're really the same thing. And then we think that we can just manipulate this mirror right here because I don't like what's going on. Right? I want you to treat me better. I want to be wealthy. We start looking at how we can set up our conditions in the physical domain based on what we see, what we hear. Because it takes work to look within and say, oh, if I change me, the situation is going to change. That make sense? Want your own little disco ball to remind you? Thank you, Amy Roberts, practitioner, who after my lesson said I had to get you your own disco ball. So again, we get stuck thinking we can manipulate the mirrors, but the conditions are just a sign for us to notice, to learn, to shift, and then move on from what we have learned. Hopefully choosing differently. Or not, which just means then another situation comes up that's probably the same set of circumstances. So there is an environment, there are conditions we experience in the opportunity to discover our thoughts. Now this is really hard to get because when I think about Gaza and Israel, my heart breaks. Like, how can we treat each other so badly? But what does it call us to? Love, awareness, knowing my oneness. Now, Abraham, law of attraction, says, when conditions happen that we don't like, it creates a rocket of desire. Does that war, or the Ukraine war, you name it, create in me a desire? Yes, a desire to know peace and harmony. All right, that's what I need to meditate on today. Because I know if I am meditating in this one place in time, it is known everywhere. Now that's another hard thing for us to get as physical beings. Because I can be at home doing something and you don't know what I'm at home doing in the garden, whatever the case may be. But the truth is that everything is everywhere all at once. We just need a lot more people taking the time to say, I desire love and peace. And we don't know how that's going to ripple. Scientists have proven that a butterfly flapping its wings changes the wind on the other side of the earth. You don't know how it makes a change. Let me just say to you, the fact that you go back to your truth and know that you are love and that you are meditating on love, it makes a difference in the energy. You just can't see it. Have you ever walked into a room where you're like, ooh, and walked into another room like, oh, this seems like a fun bunch of people? Of course, I'm an extrovert, so of course I run into that a lot. The point being, you can feel that energy. So we're here to watch the movie and shift our thoughts to be filled with our desire, not to get lost inside of the environment, the world, the news. Not to say that it's not there. It's creating the rocket of desire for what it is that I want to see in my world. But it is work, and it's spiritual work. People don't perhaps think about spirituality being work, perhaps, I don't know. The Buddhists, of course, talk about detachment, which means not denial or ignoring. You are engaged, but you're not lost in the conditions, and you're not emotionally reacting. So, why are we here in community? To practice meditation and prayer, to develop the sense of who we truly are without getting lost in our conditions that don't really exist. There are just things happening, and it's us putting our story on that. We have some new transcendental meditators in the group. Anybody here just get trained in transcendental meditation? Excellent. And I know Crystal did, and I know there are several others. Okay, so at least 4 here today. Meditation, you don't have to do transcendental meditation. I'm just going to say to you, we will continue to have more transcendental meditation here. Even though I had practiced meditation before I did transcendental, it has just enough structure to make a significant difference to go a layer deeper. That's just what I'll say, and I'm sure you can talk to others about what's been your experience about it. But it's a new tool, and I'm excited for all of you that have learned that tool. In chapter 11, David actually says, a powerful affirmation to use daily is, I am calm. And the first thing I thought to myself was, that's where that popular trend, keep calm and carry on, came from. We do have a lot of fear and anxiety in our world, so keep calm and carry on became this trend that vibrated as true to many people. Because that is about returning to the peace that is deeply within you. It is your superpower. And it takes practice, not just reading about it. So, the book also mentions that those who are most resistant to the universe's subtle clues find themselves suffering the most. Squirrel, 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 squirrel. Ah, look at all this stuff. Yep, you're in it. When we're off balance, not grounded, not centered, and not aware, we can't step back into that powerful perspective. Conditions are a mirror into your thinking. When you're out of alignment of your truth, you then suffer. When you look within to find the error that is the thought causing the suffering, look with humility and sincerity so your ego doesn't interfere. Hard to detach from ego. That is definitely also a practice. Be honest and authentic with yourself. And for some of us, we have been told so many times this is, what's expected and how we're meant to be, et cetera, that has become part of the subconscious. We don't even realize that we have just amended our actions, our thoughts, our beliefs, not by checking in with our authentic self, but because this is what I was told. All right, let's go to the last set of slides. David, the author, created this graphic. And basically, when you're the squirrel person, you may find that things are chaotic, foggy, you feel like you're bouncing around in the world, you may be struggling. And then you get to connected, and I would say an awareness, again, a little bit of a step back. And then you begin to embody the truths that you know about you. You start to rethink. Your thoughts change over time. Not that we all ever get perfect, meaning we continue to live our life and continue to make adjustments, but know our greater truth. And in moving up the channel, we get to thriving in bliss. Not because the world perfectly aligns with what we want, but because we understand we are not the condition. Next slide. Faith is not about everything turning out okay. Faith is about being okay no matter how things turn out. And not by being disconnected and not caring. But again, the perspective of understanding the truth of who we are, and here is what is happening. Next slide. So our theme is courage over comfort. It takes courage to look at yourself. This is why we are practicing together courage over comfort, to look at ourselves. The universe is saying, allow me to flow through you unrestricted, and you will see the greatest magic you have ever seen. But it means we need to let go of what we think are conditions. And once we reflect, choose what we desire, and then step into that parallel world of what that means when you desire something in particular. Where are you moving yourself to? What are you knowing about your truth? And that's what we're here for, is to continue to remind you of your truth. It is all here for you. And so it is. And it really is, and so it is. I'm glad you said that, Alan, because now I'm totally shifting to a whole new topic.